On the night of my father's 55th birthday, I stood in front of 30 guests, holding a gift I'd saved 3 months to buy. Instead of a thank you, he handed me a stinging slap across the face and called my hard-earned gift worthless junk. I ran out the front door with nothing but a backpack and a bruise, thinking my life was over. I didn't realize that by midnight, a stranger in a black SUV would tell me 5 words that would prove my entire life was a lie. I am your real father. That moment didn't just break something inside me. It also woke something up. But to understand why that slap hurt more than just my face, you need to understand the life I was living before that night. For 18 years, I lived in a house that looked perfect from the outside. A big white colonial home, clean windows, fresh grass, a front porch with flowers that changed every season. Neighbors smiled at us. They said I was lucky. They said I had a good family. But inside that house, I wasn't a daughter. I was a worker. I was Allison. But only when someone needed to call me. Most of the time I was just there. Invisible. My sister Megan had everything. Her room was twice the size of mine. Actually, I shouldn't call it mine, because I didn't have a real room. I slept in a small storage space next to the water heater. No window. No proper bed. Just an old mattress placed directly on the floor. In summer it was too hot to breathe. In winter it felt like sleeping inside a freezer. The sound of the heater turning on and off was my only company at night. Meanwhile, Megan had soft blankets, fairy lights, and a credit card that never stopped working. She didn't just live in that house. She owned it. And I served it. Every morning I woke up before everyone else. I made breakfast, cleaned the kitchen, packed lunches, then rushed to get ready for school. Not because anyone cared about my education, but because if I was late, I would be punished. And punishment in that house wasn't just shouting. It was silence, cold looks, extra chores, meals skipped. My father, Gerald, never missed a chance to remind me that I didn't belong. He never said it directly. He didn't have to. It was in the way he looked at me, like I was something he accidentally stepped on, something he couldn't wash off. You should be grateful, he would say, for everything we've done for you. That sentence followed me everywhere. When I cleaned the floors, when I folded their clothes, when I stood quietly while guests praised Megan for being so talented and so beautiful. No one ever asked about me, and if they did, Gerald always had the same answer. She's shy. No, I wasn't shy. I just learned that speaking didn't change anything, so I stopped trying. But deep inside, something never made sense. If I was such a burden, if I was such a mistake, why keep me? Why not send me away? Why not give me up? That question stayed in my mind for years, until one day, I found the answer. It happened by accident, like most truths do. I was taking out the trash like I always did after dinner. The bag was heavier than usual. Something inside felt different. When I opened it to check, I saw papers. Official-looking papers. One of them caught my eye. A manila envelope. It had numbers written on it. I don't know why, but something told me to look closer. So I did. And that's when I saw it. A document with my name. Not Allison, but something longer. Something unfamiliar. And right below it, a number. $810 per month. First, I didn't understand. But as I kept reading, my hand started shaking. It wasn't a random number. It was a payment. A fixed amount. Sent regularly. For me. I wasn't just living in that house. I was being paid for. The state was sending money. Every month. To take care of me. Suddenly everything made sense. The chores. The coldness. The fake kindness when outsiders were watching. I wasn't a daughter. I was income. A monthly check. A transaction. I did the math later that night. 18 years. $810 per month. That's almost $175,000. That's what I was worth to them. Not love. Not care. Money. That realization didn't make me cry. It made me numb. Because when you finally understand your place in someone's life, There's no pain left. Just emptiness. And maybe a quiet kind of anger. But even after that, I stayed. 'Cause where would I go? Who would believe me? I was just the adopted girl. The quiet one. The invisible one. Until that birthday night. The night everything exploded. The house was full. Guests everywhere. Laughter. Music. Fake happiness. I stayed in the kitchen most of the time, preparing food, cleaning plates, doing what I always did. No one noticed me. Until it was time for gifts. One by one, people came forward. Expensive watches. Luxury items. Things I could never afford. And then, it was my turn. My hands were shaking as I held the small box. I had worked extra hours. Skipped meals. Saved every coin for 3 months. Just to buy something simple. Something meaningful. I thought maybe this time, maybe he would smile. Maybe he would say thank you. Maybe just once he would see me. But instead, the moment he opened it, his face changed. Disgust. Anger. And before I could even react, his hand hit my face. Hard. The room went silent. You call this a gift? He said. This is worthless junk. Worthless. Just like me. No one defended me. No one spoke. They just watched. Like it was normal. Like I deserved it. That was the moment I realized. Nothing would ever change if I stayed. So I ran. No plan. No destination. Just away. Away from that house. Away from that life. Away from being nothing. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what would happen next. All I knew was, I couldn't go back. And as I stood alone under the cold night sky, holding my small backpack, face still burning from that slap, I thought that was the lowest point of my life. I was wrong, because just a few hours later, everything I believed about my past, my name, my identity, was about to be destroyed and rebuilt by 5 simple words. I am your real father. I am your real father. Those 5 words didn't feel real. They didn't feel comforting. They didn't feel like hope. They felt like danger, like a trick, like the start of something worse. I took a step back. My grip tightened around my backpack. The man standing in front of me looked calm. Too calm. He was tall, dressed in a dark coat, standing beside a black SUV that looked expensive even in the dim streetlight. Everything about him felt controlled, careful, like he had been waiting for this moment. I think you have the wrong person, I said quickly. My voice was shaking, but I tried to stay strong. I don't have a father. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he slowly reached into his coat pocket. For a second, my heart stopped. But when his hand came out, he was holding a photograph. He stepped closer, but not too close. Like he didn't want to scare me. Just look at this, he said softly. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to run. But something inside me, something I didn't understand yet, told me to stay. So I looked. And the moment I saw that picture, my entire world shifted. It was a woman, smiling, standing in a garden full of sunlight. Her eyes, they looked exactly like mine. Same shape, same softness, same quiet sadness hiding behind the smile. My fingers trembled as I held the photo. Who is she? I whispered. The man's voice was gentle. That's Catherine, he said. Your mother. My chest tightened. I had never seen my mother before. Not once. Not even a picture. Gerald always said she didn't matter. That she was gone. That I should forget about her. But now, here she was. Real. Smiling back at me. And somehow, familiar. I looked up at him again. And you? I asked. He took a breath. Like this was the hardest part for him. My name is Richard Whitford, he said. And I've been looking for you for 21 years. 21. That number hit me strangely. I was 18. Why 21? Before I could ask, he continued. There are things you don't know, he said. Things that were hidden from you. I shook my head. No, I said quickly. I don't want to hear this. Because a part of me already knew. If I listen, Everything would change. And change was terrifying. I just need somewhere to go, I added. I don't need a story. But he didn't leave. He didn't force me either. He just stood there. Steady. Patient. I know tonight has been difficult, he said. But what happened to you wasn't just cruelty. It was part of something bigger. That made me pause. Something bigger? What did that even mean? He looked at my face, at the mark left by the slap, and something in his eyes changed. Not pity, not sympathy, something deeper. Anger, controlled but real. They hurt you, he said quietly. I didn't respond, because if I did, I knew I might break. So instead, I asked the one question that had been sitting in my chest for years. If you're my father, I said slowly, where were you? The silence that followed felt heavy. Too heavy. For a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. But then he did. I was told you were gone, he said. Taken away legally. Signed over. That there was nothing I could do. His voice didn't shake, but I could feel the weight behind it. I spent years trying to find you, he continued. But every door was closed. Every record led nowhere. That's not possible, I said. People don't just disappear. He nodded. You're right, he said. They don't. Unless someone makes them disappear. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't like where this was going. I didn't like how it felt. Because deep down, pieces were starting to connect. The envelope, the money, the lies. Get in the car, he said gently. Let me show you the truth. I looked at the SUV, then back at him. Every warning in my mind was screaming at me. Don't trust him. Don't go. Don't believe this. But another voice, quieter, stronger, said something else. What if he's telling the truth? What if everything you thought you knew is wrong? I took a deep breath. And before I could change my mind, I opened the door. The inside of the car was warm. Soft lights. Clean. Safe. So different from the life I just left behind. He got in on the other side. The driver started the engine. And just like that, we were moving. I sat there quietly staring out the window. The streets passed by in a blur. My heart was still racing. My mind was spinning. I didn't come tonight by accident, Richard said after a while. I've been watching from a distance. Waiting for the right moment. That made me uncomfortable. You were watching me? I asked. To make sure you were safe, he corrected. Safe. That word felt strange. Like something I had never truly experienced. I saw how they treated you, he added. And I knew. I couldn't wait any longer. I didn't respond. Because part of me felt angry. Why now? Why not before? Why let me suffer for so long? But another part of me, the part that saw the photo, the part that felt something real in his voice, stayed quiet, as maybe, just maybe, he wasn't the one who abandoned me. Where are we going? I finally asked. Somewhere you can rest, he said. And tomorrow we start fixing this. Fixing this. I didn't know if anything could be fixed. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't completely alone. The car slowed down as we entered a quiet street. Large houses, tall gates, soft lights glowing from inside. Felt like a different world. A world I didn't belong in. The car stopped in front of a modern house with glass windows and a wide driveway. This is where I'm staying, he said. Just for now. I didn't move. Because suddenly, fear came back. What if this was a mistake? What if I was walking into something worse? He must have seen it on my face. Because his voice softened. You don't have to trust me tonight, he said. Just give me a chance to prove it. I looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly, I nodded. Because I had already lost everything. There was nothing left to protect. As I stepped out of the car, I had no idea that by this time tomorrow, I would learn the truth about my past. A truth so shocking, it would make everything I went through look small. Because the life I thought was mine was never mine to begin with. That night I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay in a bed that felt too soft, in a room that felt too big, staring at a ceiling I wasn't used to. There was a window, a real window. For a long time I just watched the sky. I wasn't used to seeing it from where I slept. Back in that house, my world had no view, no light, no air, just walls. But here, everything felt open. And that scared me, because when your whole life has been small, freedom doesn't feel safe at first. Feels uncertain, like something you don't know how to hold. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flashes of everything. The slap, the guest staring, the envelope with the money, the photograph of my mother, and his words, "I am your real father." By morning I was exhausted, but I also knew one thing clearly. I needed answers, not guesses, not stories, truth. When I stepped out of the room, the house was quiet, too quiet. No shouting, no orders, no sound of someone calling my name. It felt peaceful. I followed the smell of coffee into the kitchen. Richard was already there, sitting at the table, reading something on a tablet. He looked up as I walked in, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Felt strange, like we were two people connected by something huge, but still strangers. "Good morning," he said gently. I nodded. "Sit," he added. There was food on the table. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit. It looked simple, but to me it felt like too much, because no one had ever made breakfast for me before. I hesitated, then slowly sat down. "You don't have to say anything yet," he said. "I know this is a lot." I picked up the fork, but my hands were still slightly shaking. "I don't want comfort," I said quietly. "I want the truth." He didn't look surprised. He just nodded. "Then I'll give you the truth," he said. And just like that, everything began to unravel. He started from the beginning. "My name is Richard Whitford," he said again. "I run a private investment firm." That didn't mean much to me. Money had never been part of my world. Not really. "But that's not important," he added. "What matters is your mother." He paused, like even saying her name carried weight. Catherine Whitford. Hearing that last name again felt strange. "Whitford," he continued. "We met when we were young," he said. "She was strong, kind, the kind of person who made everything feel lighter." I stayed quiet, listening, trying to imagine a life I had never known. "When she got pregnant," he said, "we were happy." That word hit me. Happy felt so far away from anything I had experienced. "But a few months before you were born, there was an accident." My chest tightened. "A car crash," he said. "Severe." "She survived, but barely. She was in the ICU for weeks." I felt something shift inside me, like I was stepping into a memory that wasn't mine, but somehow still belonged to me. "And during that time," he continued, "I was told things." "By who?" I asked. "A social worker," he said. His name was Leonard Grubb. The name sounded cold, sharp, like something I wouldn't forget. "He told me that Catherine wouldn't recover," Richard said. "That even if she did, she wouldn't be able to take care of a child." I swallowed hard. "And me?" I asked. His jaw tightened slightly. "He said you were being placed into care," he replied. "That it was the best option." "Did you agree?" I asked. "No," he said immediately. "I refused." That surprised me. "Then what happened?" I asked. His eyes darkened. "He came back with papers," he said. "Legal documents. Said everything had been approved. Said it was already done." I frowned. "That doesn't make sense," I said. "It didn't to me either," he replied. "But at the time, I was dealing with Catherine's condition. I trusted the system. I thought, maybe this is how it works." I felt a strange mix of emotions. Confusion, anger, doubt. "You just let me go?" I asked quietly. The question came out sharper than I expected. And for the first time, I saw pain in his face. No, he said. I never let you go. I was lied to. That silence again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. But when Catherine woke up, he continued, she asked for you. And that's when everything broke. What do you mean? I asked. There were no records, he said. No clear answers. It was like you had vanished. My heart started beating faster. Vanished. Just like that. I spent years trying to find you, he said. Private investigators. Legal searches. Every connection I had. Nothing. Until recently. I leaned forward slightly. What changed? I asked. He reached for a folder on the table. Thick. Organized. Real. This, he said. He opened it and turned it toward me. Inside were documents. Printed pages. Photos. Signatures. This is your adoption record, he said. I looked down. My eyes scanned the page. And there it was. A signature. Supposedly his. This is fake, he said calmly. How do you know? I asked. Because I never signed it, he replied. My stomach dropped. He pulled out another document. This is from a forensic expert, he said. Signature analysis. I didn't understand everything on the page, but one sentence stood out. Signature does not match verified samples. Fake. Forged. Illegal. This shouldn't have been possible, I whispered. It shouldn't, he agreed. But it gets worse. Worse? I didn't think that was possible. But then he showed me the next paper. A bank record. Dated. Clear. Undeniable. A transaction. $5,000. Sent from Gerald to Leonard Grubb. My breath caught in my throat. No, I whispered. But the evidence was right there. Cold. Real. Permanent. They didn't just take you, Richard said quietly. They bought you. Everything inside me went silent. No thoughts. No feelings. Just one truth echoing in my mind. My life, my childhood, my pain, was never an accident. It was planned. It was paid for. I wasn't just unwanted. I was stolen. And suddenly, that $810 per month, that $175,000, it wasn't just money anymore. It was proof. Proof that my entire life had been built on a lie. I looked up at him slowly. Tears were in my eyes, but I wasn't crying. Not yet. What happens now? I asked. His answer was simple, clear, unshakable. Now, he said, we take it back. Those words should have made me feel strong, but instead, they made me feel overwhelmed, because taking something back meant facing it. It meant going back into the world I had just escaped, the world that broke me. I sat there in silence for a long moment. My hands were still resting on the table, but my mind wasn't there anymore. It was back in that house, back in that storage room, back in every insult I had swallowed for 18 years. You don't have to decide right now, Richard said gently, but I already knew something inside me had changed. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it, even if it hurts, even if it burns. I want to understand everything, I said quietly. His eyes met mine, and he nodded. That was enough for him to continue. There's more you need to know, he said. About Gerald. My stomach tightened at the name. Even hearing it made something inside me tense. What about him? I asked. Richard leaned back slightly. His voice became colder. Gerald didn't just take advantage of a system, he said. He built his life around it. I didn't understand, so I stayed silent, waiting. He knew exactly what he was doing, Richard continued. The payments from the state, the monthly support for your care, they weren't just used for expenses. They became income. My throat felt dry. You mean? I said slowly. I was money to him. Richard didn't hesitate. Yes. One word. Simple. Final. It hit harder than anything else. Because it confirmed what I already feared deep down, but never wanted to accept. He continued. And Megan. My heart skipped slightly at her name. She benefited from it too, he said. She had everything because of you. I shook my head immediately. No, I said. She's my sister. She didn't know. Richard didn't argue. But he didn't agree either. That may be true, he said. But she still lived a different life because of you. Silence fell again. Heavy. Uncomfortable. I looked down at my hands. They felt like they didn't belong to me. I don't understand how someone can do that, I whispered. Richard watched me carefully. Some people don't see children as children, he said. They see opportunity. That word stayed in the air. Opportunity. Like I was a decision. A number. A system. Not a person. I swallowed hard. And the $5,000? I asked. Richard's face tightened. That was the key, he said. That's what sealed everything. Without that payment, the adoption wouldn't have gone through. So he paid to erase me, I said quietly. Richard nodded. The room felt colder suddenly, even though nothing had changed. It was like the truth itself had changed the temperature. I stood up slowly and walked toward the window. Outside, the world looked normal. People moving. Cars driving. Life continuing. Like nothing terrible had ever happened anywhere. How long will this take? I asked without turning back. To fix it, I added. Richard didn't answer immediately. And that silence told me everything. Months, he said finally. Maybe longer. I closed my eyes. Months. After 18 years of being invisible, now I had to wait even longer to be seen. I turned back toward him. And what do I do in the meantime? I asked. His answer was calm. You live, he said. For the first time, you live without fear. That sounded impossible, because fear wasn't something I could just turn off. It was built into me, in every step I took, in every word I spoke, in every silence I kept. But something about his voice made it feel slightly less impossible. The next morning felt different again. Not like the night before. Not like the house I grew up in. But something in between. Richard gave me space. He didn't follow me around. He didn't give orders. He didn't treat me like I needed control. And that alone felt strange. Unfamiliar. I walked through the house slowly. Every room looked like something from another world. Bookshelves. Art on the walls. Open spaces. Light everywhere. It didn't feel like a place built on fear. It felt like a place built on choice. But I still didn't feel like I belonged. At one point, I found myself standing near the front door, just staring at it. Part of me wanted to leave, not because I didn't believe Richard, but because believing him meant accepting everything else. And that was heavy, too heavy. You're thinking about running, a voice said behind me. I turned. Richard was there. Not angry, not accusing, just observant. I'm not, I said quickly, but he didn't react. He just stepped closer. You don't have to stay here, he said. But I think you already know, there's nowhere else to go. That was the truth. Even if I didn't want to admit it, I had no home, no real identity anymore. Just pieces of a life that didn't belong to me. I keep thinking, I said quietly, what if I'm wrong? What if I go back there and nothing changes? Richard looked at me carefully. Then you would still know the truth, he said. And that changes everything. I didn't respond, because I knew he was right, even if I hated it, even if it hurt. A few hours later, the doorbell rang. It was the first time I had heard that sound since I arrived. Richard opened the door, and I stayed behind him. There were two people outside, a woman in a professional suit, and a man holding a briefcase. This is Margaret, Richard said, glancing back at me. My attorney. Margaret looked at me directly, not with pity, not with judgment, but focus. And I'm here, she said, because we're going to build your case. Case. That word made everything feel real. Not just emotional, not just personal, legal, permanent. She opened her folder. And what she said next changed the direction of everything. "We're not just proving fraud," she said. "We're going after everything they took." I felt my heart race. "What does that mean?" I asked. Margaret looked at me calmly. "It means," she said, "they won't just lose you. They will lose everything they built on you." A long silence followed. And in that silence, something inside me shifted. For the first time, fear was still there. But it wasn't alone anymore. Something else was growing beside it. Something unfamiliar. Strength. Margaret's words stayed in the air long after she finished speaking. "They will lose everything they built on you." For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Because my entire life had been about losing things. My voice. My space. My identity. My name. And now someone was saying, I could take something back. But it didn't feel real yet. It felt like a promise from a world I didn't fully understand. That night I couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't fear keeping me awake. It was something else. Thoughts. Too many thoughts. I kept replaying everything. Gerald's face when he hit me. The guests who stayed silent. The envelope with the money. The forged signature. My mother's smile in that photograph. And Richard's voice. Calm. Certain. "I never let you go." By morning, something inside me had changed. Not completely. Not magically. But enough that I wasn't the same girl who ran out of that birthday house. I wasn't just running anymore. I was looking forward. The next few days moved quickly. Too quickly for my mind to catch up. Documents were prepared. Statements were collected. Evidence was organized. Margaret worked like someone who had done this many times before. But for me, everything still felt unreal. Until the day we went to court. The building was large. Cold. Impersonal. Like it had seen too many broken lives inside it. I stood at the entrance for a moment, frozen. Richard stood beside me. "You don't have to look at anyone," he said quietly. "Just breathe." But I knew I had to look. Because this wasn't just about hiding anymore. It was about facing. Inside the courtroom, everything felt sharp. The benches. The silence. The weight of attention. And then I saw him. Gerald. Sitting there like nothing had ever happened. Like I was still nothing. Beside him was Megan. She looked confused. Uncomfortable. Not cruel. Just lost. For a moment I felt something strange. Not anger. Not revenge. Just distance. Like I was looking at a life that no longer belonged to me. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And then it began. Margaret spoke first. Clear. Controlled. Unshakable. She laid out everything. The payments. The forged documents. The fake signature. The $5,000 transaction. Every word felt like a piece of my life being turned into evidence. Not emotion. Proof. Gerald's lawyer tried to interrupt. Tried to twist the story. Tried to make it sound complicated. But truth has a way of becoming simple when it is fully exposed. Then came the moment I didn't expect. A voice from behind me. Soft. Shaking. It was Megan. "I didn't know," she said. Her voice cracked. "I swear. I didn't know where the money came from." The courtroom went silent. She looked at me. Not with anger. But guilt. "I just thought," she continued. "I thought she was just part of the family." That word. Family. It used to mean everything. Now it felt complicated. Broken. Incomplete. I didn't answer her. Not because I hated her. But because I didn't know how to explain what I felt. Because the truth was, I wasn't just angry at them. I was grieving a life I never had. Then Gerald stood up. Slowly. Confident at first. But I could see it cracking. "They're lying," he said. His voice was loud. Too loud. "I gave that girl a home. She would have had nothing without me." A murmur moved through the courtroom. But Margaret didn't react. She simply placed one final document on the table. "Then explain this," she said. "Bank records. Clear. Undeniable." The courtroom went quiet again. And that silence was louder than his voice. The judge looked down for a long time. Then up at him. and finally spoke. Her words were calm, but final. This court finds evidence of fraud, identity misrepresentation, and financial exploitation. I felt my hands tighten. My heart was beating fast. And, she continued, the adoption is hereby voided. Void. That word didn't feel real, like something snapping in the air. Then she turned slightly and looked directly at me and said something I will never forget. From this moment, she said, you are recognized under your legal identity. She paused and then spoke my name, Hillary Whitford. Something inside me broke, not in a painful way, but in a releasing way, like holding your breath for years and finally letting go. Gerald said nothing, not after that, because there was nothing left to say. The judge continued. Restitution, charges, repayment. Every word was heavy, final, and irreversible. As the session ended, I didn't move right away. I just sat there, quiet, still, processing. Richard gently placed a hand on my shoulder. You did it, he said softly, but I shook my head slightly. No, I said. I didn't do this alone. That was the truth. For the first time, I wasn't alone. Outside the courthouse, the air felt different, lighter. I don't know if the world changed, or if I did. Reporters were there. Lights. Questions. But I didn't answer any of them. I just kept walking, until I wasn't walking away anymore. I was walking forward. Weeks later, everything had settled. Not perfectly, but differently. Gerald and Donna were facing trial. Megan started working for herself for the first time. And Richard, he never pushed me to call him anything. He just stayed. Patient. Present. One evening I stood by a window in my new apartment. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't perfect. But it had something I never had before. Space. Light. Choice. I looked outside at the sky. And for the first time, I didn't feel small under it. I felt part of it. People often ask me now if I did all of this for revenge. But the answer is simple. No, it was never about revenge. It was about truth, about being seen, about being allowed to exist without paying for it. And if there is one thing I learned from everything, it is this. You are not the price someone puts on your head. You are not the silence they force on you. You are not the role they assign you. You are real. And no lie, no matter how long it lasts, can erase that forever. My name is Hillary Whitford, and for the first time in my life, I finally know who I am.